All right, finally getting to final assembly or reassembling the dry pumps, and yeah, got all of our parts in, and just getting these things cleaned up. Do as I do, don't do as I do, but I'm calling this as clean as I can. I mean, this I am scrubbing, and it's just baked down mud. And what really all I care about is the inside, and that is crystal clear. And we're going to work on keeping it that way. So just keeping my work surface as clean as possible. But this is, just as a quick reminder, this end here is actually what faces the engine. So this is what bolts up to the mounting bracket, which, well, I got the seat or the cab back on it, but underneath there. So what I did first was get to setting in the new lip seal, and so I put a little silicone around it and set that in, and it's got to go down a little bit. It's got to be recessed in a little bit because there is a snap ring that goes in. So lip seal goes in, and then your snap ring goes in. I kind of got it started, and then I got the snap ring on there, and then I just started kind of hammering the snap ring until the snap ring located with the groove and is locked in there now. So that's all done. Yeah, again, I'm still kind of learning all this stuff, but I actually already jumped ahead and already got this side. So this is what connects actually to the hydraulic pump for the boom, auxiliary, bucket, and there wasn't really much of a trick to this. And so that's why I'm just going to really focus on the one side, which in my opinion, the more the more important side would be the one facing towards the engine, because it was a little bit more trickier to get pulled apart and whatnot, and putting it back together might be just a little bit trickier. So this went together pretty smooth. Yeah, and everything is working. I put the lever on it just to make sure that the yoke that connects to that shaft works, everything. So we'll go through on this side of the pump. I got everything all nice and clean, so she's ready to go back together. Yeah, let's run back over here. But yeah, so we got our new seal in there. I'm gonna make sure before I close it all up that everything's nice and clean down there, because there is a little bit of silicone that I put around that lip seal. So let me clean that up, and then I will grab the first shaft here. I kind of jumped ahead, but I put a new bearing on. I don't know if we remember or not, but the last bearing was, the cage on it was bent, and yeah, so trying to find a replacement bearing was going to take a while, and I actually had to go with, like, it's a Timken 15102. This isn't even a Timken branded bearing, but I got it from Bobcat. So I don't know. I would have thought getting just a normal Timken would have worked, but it would have been a week or two before I got one. So I don't know why, but yeah. So I got the new one installed, because the shaft actually gets installed going inside. So the bearing's got to go on first, and then it protrudes in. So let me clean that up real quick, and then we'll start going to the next step. All right, so I hope I'm prefacing this enough. Move my refreshment out of the way. I'm not doing this by any instructions. I'm just kind of doing this off of feel, I guess you would say. So who knows if this is the next step or not, but the way I took it apart, this is kind of how it has to go back together, at least in my mind. So yeah, I'm getting in the yoke and the shaft, and so they kind of have to go in together. If you put the shaft down in the hole, well, the yoke won't slip in there. I actually had it propped up so that literally all I do is knock it and it would have came off. But as you can kind of see, the yoke has to go in like that. So if you have them like this, put your yoke in there, move it, and then, as you can see, we'll get it lined in there. But hold on, set you down. there you have it. So got that in there. Yoke's in there, threw a little oil on it. And yeah, so there's a cover plate that goes here, and then the other plate has a hole through it, which is what wherever the control arm is, I have it laying around here somewhere, but control arm gets connected to that. And yeah, so let me go on to the next step, which you don't, to be honest, you don't need to put the cover plates or anything on there. Again, I'm just thinking out loud here, because it's been like a week since I had this all apart and I kind of forget. But yeah, the cover plates don't need to go on, but there's, now I remember, bearing race, bearing, and then a spacer goes in here on each end, which are, here's a spacer, and I gotta clean these up, so I'll have to step away for a minute. But there's a bearing and a race, and then here's another bearing and a race. So I had that sitting here. That's for that cover there, and then here's our see-through cover. So I'm a little bummed out. There weren't new seals in the seal kit for these, which is what the shaft of the yoke goes through. They feel okay though, and they weren't wet, so I'm not gonna worry about it, but something to think about. Yeah, there weren't any seals with it. So, oh yeah, the other thing too, which I don't see it around here, there, on this one specifically, there was a little tiny gasket underneath it, very thin, like a paper gasket, and that one got destroyed, and the part, or the seal kit that I got, did not come with that. What there is though is, it's recessed lip here, O-ring goes in there and presses up against that seal, and I mean, I think it's going to be fairly sufficient to keep oil out, but I'm just going to put a little bit of silicone around here just to keep it watertight, I guess. But yeah, let me get these items cleaned up. All these bearings felt good, so they just need to get cleaned up because they gotten dirty. But yeah, I'm gonna get them cleaned up. This is the NFG one, and so I got to throw that away. But yeah, these are all the bed, broken pistons. Here's the culprit of everything. Bastard. Alright, let me go clean things up. I'll be back. Alright, so I got started. So, your roller bearing. I'm just working on this side for right now. I'm not getting this one yet, but it's the same concept. The cone of the bearing is facing out. Alright. So, there it is. And then you push your bearing race in. So I hope you can see that. Taper bearing. Where's the other one? The bearing is sitting like that. Okay. Got it. Sits like that. Push it in through this side, and then make sure your bearing race is going the right direction. And push it in. And then your spacer comes on next, and just tap that in. Alright, next. Alright, new O-ring goes on next. This cover, or excuse me, the spacer will stick out. It's going to be basically flush with this mating surface of that cover. So, here's the cover. I'm going to clean this up real quick and then get it slapped on there. And then there's 4 little bolts. Don't ask me the torque spec. I don't know. 1 or 2 ugga-duggas with that will do it, but be careful. It's aluminum, so you don't want to strip those threads. But I don't see why there would be, or why the importance of a torque spec when it's just pushing that cap up against that surface. So, all right, we'll go to the next one after I get that cover on. Again, same practice on this side. The taper is going down that way. Your bearing race, spacer, new O-ring, and then this one has the lip seal for the shaft. Again, the kit didn't come with brand new ones, but these are in pretty good shape. They're still fairly soft. I didn't see any leaks by it either. The biggest leak was the front ceiling lip seal that faces towards the engine, and there's a brand new one, obviously, as we showed a little bit before, so we should be good. Let me get this buttoned up, and then we're going to work on getting the new rotating group set in here and go from there. Alright, here's the new rotating group. Of course, I did what I was going to warn everyone about. Don't lose these pins. There's 3 of them. They just sit in there, setting you down while I clean this up. Alright, clean. So they just sit down in there. Kind of see these wider holes. There's 3 of them. And then you got a tapered collar, bushing, whatever, that goes on top. It's like a balancing act. Goes on top. Okay. Doing this through the camera lens is a little tricky. Okay. So, the taper that faces up, and this ring here is tapered as well. So, when this came, it was a little bit like, just had cardboard and stuff on it. But again, remember, we polished that surface on it. So, wash it real good. And then I threw a little bit of oil down these bores. And take your center section. I'm going to need 2 hands, but you get them all lined up and it'll drop into place. So, let me... Okay, so I got 6 out of 9 is pretty good. Bam. Bam. Just like that. So as you see, that collar sits there nice. And it rotates. You can throw a little bit of oil on the surface too, but mainly those bores are a little bit more critical. So let me get this slid on. So this surface is going to go in. So you also, I guess, try your best at lining this up too, because you might get a little headache. I'll rotate a little bit. So get those lined up so we'll slide in there. Let me get it slid in there. Hold on. Boom. You want to be careful when you're putting it in. You want to make sure your fingers are on the collar pulling backwards so those rings don't come out. But she's in there. So yeah. So the next step is there's a bearing and a spacer. Spacer's critical. You want to make sure that you do not mix these up. So there's one for each side. Focus. And they are actually, in the parts manual, they got maybe a half dozen or so listed off, and they're in a couple of thou increment. So these are measured. I'm pretty sure what they're mainly indexing is, or what they're mainly measuring is the pressure on the tension in the spring inside. And since I got a new center section, a rotating group, that's going to change. But I really don't care. It will be just fine. If you're really rebuilding this for like a customer or something, yeah, take your time, but it's gonna be a little farm machine, so I don't really care. I think it'll be better than what it was. All right, let's get back to it. So, got our spacer, and then the bearing goes on next. I gotta clean this up. It's a little dirty, but bearing goes in, and then this whole unit slides in to the center group. So I'll show that here in a minute once I get it cleaned up. All right, so I got everything over here. Here's the new wear plate. Critical note about these is that they are directional, meaning that, I think it's the proper term is directional, but they're actually separate part numbers. So this side, this part is for this side only, and then the other one is for that side. They look identical. The only difference is these hash marks. So I'm assuming that these are like little tiny reliefs as the oil is getting flung around. So on the other side, they're actually reversed. They'd be on that side and that side. So just pay attention to that. Look at your part numbers and make sure you take pictures when you're taking it apart. But remember that pin down there. It's gonna line up with that slot right there. Throw a little oil on the back because it's gonna help make it stick. So get that slot in there. Hold on. There we go. Bam. So she's on there. Index, so it's not spinning. So next, the bearing is going to go in this race here. Again, these were nice and clean. So I didn't replace the bearings. They're nice. They still got, they're not rough, grinding, no wear marks on them, so they're good. The last thing before you button this up, besides your new gasket, is there is a collar that goes in between the shafts because this is separate from the front section. So you gotta join the two together, and I'm sure it's gonna be fun getting those lined up because this side will not move, but this side will because there's pressure on that side now since I got it bolted down. So I'll be able to move this side a little bit and get it lined up. But again, don't tilt this end downward because then your rotating group's going to fall out in those pins, remember. So it's kind of keep this in the upward position, keep everything from falling out. But I'm going to go get that collar. I'm going to put it on here, and then yeah, we'll get it slipped on here. All right, so I got the collar on. Got the new gasket. You don't need to put any sealant on this because this is a metal gasket, so seal itself. But yeah, next I'm just gonna get this slid on. There's locating dowels, so they'll go in their corresponding holes, and it's just getting this lined up with the spline shaft that's in there. So put you down, get it slid on, and bolt it up. And that was pretty easy. As I was slipping it on, just rotate the shaft a little bit and it's splined pretty easily. Put 6 bolts in, 3 in the top, 3 in the bottom. Gave her a couple of ugga-duggas, made sure going around evenly, and it all seemed to go together pretty smoothly. If you remember though, I'm not sure if I pointed it out, but that rotating group, there's a spring inside that, spring inside of that, so you are compressing that spring a little bit, and now there's spring tension on those pistons, and so it's causing friction. It's gonna be difficult to try to spin this pump by hand. So kind of tough to see if it works or not. This is a tapered shaft, and there's a spline that goes on that hooks up to the engine. Might be able to try to spin it from there, but yeah, that's really it. I'm gonna go around, make sure that they're nice and tight again. Get this put on, and I haven't gotten to the hydraulic pump yet. I should have taken that apart last week, but I didn't. And I hope it's fine, but again, a lot of metal got thrown through this thing, so the scary thing is if one of these go, again, it sends metal throughout the system after the filters. So what I'm up against now is once I get this put in, it might fix our problem, but we might need to go to the drive motors. If I was doing this for a, I don't know, 100% reliability, I guess you'd say, I'd also take apart the pumps, or excuse me, the drive motors too. But, oh yeah. I'm not doing that. I'm just gonna try this first, and then if I gotta go to the drive motors, I gotta go to the drive motors. But for right now, this will work. I'll get it all put together, and then we'll move on to getting it put back in the machine. All right, got my drive adapter connected. There was a key that goes in the shaft, and then just put this guy on there. 9/16 bolt, drive it down home pretty good. And actually, I can actually rotate it. And that spline is moving too. So we know we're connected. Nothing, no problems. So I think we're good here, boys and girls, on this one. Yeah, tomorrow's a new day. We're gonna get it hopefully in the machine, but we'll see what happens. Yeah, keep trucking on and have a good night until I see you in the next vid.